What if I told you retiring at 55 could cost you over $300,000 in Social Security benefits alone? That's before we even talk about the strain on your portfolio or the elevated cost of healthcare before Medicare kicks in. Today, I'm going to show you why walking away too soon could set off a financial chain reaction that could be tough to recover from. Many of these risks can be mitigated with the proper type of financial planning and the savings today in order to match your goals in the future. But the first step is understanding what those risks are. Let's take a look. First, let's lay down some Social Security basics. To qualify, you need at least 40 credits, about 10 years worth of work. If you work part-time for 20 years, you can also get the 40 credits. But your benefit is based on your highest 35 earning years, adjusted for inflation. This is also called your AIME, or your averaged index monthly earnings. More on this in a second. At your full retirement age, that AIME translates into your primary insurance amount, basically your standard monthly check. Claiming at 62 reduces it permanently by as much as 30%, while waiting until 70 can increase it by about 8% a year non-compounded. So if your full retirement age is 67, waiting till 70 could increase that benefit by up to 24% more. Now, if you retire at 55, you're pausing your contributions well before you claim. And if you don't have 35 years of earnings, the Social Security Administration fills the gaps with zeros, which drags down your average. Even if you do have the 35 years, you lose the chance to swap out those lower earning years in your 20s and 30s for higher earning years in your 50s and 60s. Let's walk through an example that really shows the cost of retiring at 55. Say someone worked for 30 years, but then decided to retire early. That means they only have 30 years of earnings in their Social Security record, and the formula requires 35 years. So the Social Security Administration is going to plug in 5 zeros for those missing years. Here's what their career earnings might look like. 20 years averaging 60,000, of course, indexed for inflation. 10 years averaging 150,000. Retired 55, no final 5 years. So 5 years of zeros gets added in. That totals about 2.7 million of lifetime earnings over 30 years. But because the formula divides by 35 years, those 5 zeros are going to drag the average down. Their AIME works out to about $6,429. At full retirement age, that gives them a primary insurance amount, a PIA, of $2,768 a month. We'll discuss more in a bit about how you calculate the actual primary insurance amount off of your AIME. But first, let's see what happens if they work for 5 more years. Assuming their last 5 years in their prime earning years, they earned $300,000 a year each. Add another $1.5 million to the total. So now their 35-year lifetime indexed earnings is $4.2 million, up from that $2.7. Divide that by 35, and their AIME jumps to $10,000. So that raises their total benefit, their primary insurance amount, to $3,467 a month at their full retirement age. So by adding just 5 more years of work, their monthly benefit grows by $646. And over a 25-year period, that's about $210,000 more in lifetime Social Security benefits. So if they have a spouse with a lower income earning working history, their spousal benefit might actually be their higher benefit. So the spousal benefit is going to be half of the primary insurance amount of the higher income earning spouse. So in this example, the spouse would also get $350 a month less if the worker retired at 55 instead of 60. So that's another $105,000 over a 25-year period. So all in, the decision to stop working at 55 in this example and take those zeros at the end instead of finishing with 5 more years could cost the household nearly $350,000 in lost benefits over that 25-year period. And that's before factoring in cost of living adjustments. So those cost of living adjustments can make a big difference. So juicing your benefit before you only have COLA to rely on increases your base benefit. And that COLA is applied to the base. So if inflation averages at 3% a year, a $2,000 check would grow to about $3,600 after 20 years. And a $3,000 check would grow to about $5,400 after 20 years. So that's about an $1,800 a month difference just from starting at a higher base. So this is why the later career years matter. Replacing lower earning years with higher earning ones, even modestly higher, boosts your benefit much more than people actually realize. Retiring at 55 means freezing your calculation before you can do that. Now, let's look at what happens to that benefit if we have some zeros in our calculation and we file for Social Security early. So let's use the example of our early retiree who only had 30 years of working history and compare it to the individual who had the full 35 years. It can be hard to continue to wait on Social Security with all of the financial pressures that early retirement can bring. Their primary insurance amount was $2,768. So at full retirement age, they could get $2,768. But if they claim early at age 62, they're only going to get $1,938 a month. Now, at first, claiming early looks appealing. You start collecting sooner. But wouldn't it be nice if you didn't feel the pressure into having to take it early? Especially considering the 1-2 punch from a diminished primary insurance amount from missing some working years that leads to even a lower benefit at age 62. I once ran the numbers for a client who thought claiming at 62 was a no-brainer. But when he looked at his family history, parents lived well into their 90s, and waiting until 70 meant nearly $400,000 more in benefits over his lifetime. Retiring at 55 makes it much harder to wait because you need the income sooner. Now, let's zoom in on the portfolio side. Imagine you have $2.5 million saved and you want to retire at 55, living off of $125,000 a year plus $25,000 a year in healthcare expenses. So $150,000 total. So the first scenario we'll look at is somebody retiring at 55. They'll withdraw $150,000 per year from their portfolio, or 6% of their portfolio value. Over 10 years, that's $1.5 million gone before Social Security and Medicare even kick in. Now, in the second scenario, we have somebody retiring at age 60. Now it's only 5 years of bridging that needs to happen. So $750,000 is withdrawn from their portfolio. Still painful, but half as damaging. Now let's look at somebody who retires at age 65, at Medicare age. Social Security is also right around the corner, and withdrawals might only be $125,000 a year for a short window. Fraction of the 55 scenario, they're only pulling out $250,000 out of their portfolio before Social Security kicks in, and their Social Security benefit could be much higher. So let's look at two individuals. The first individual enters retirement in a bull market. The portfolio is growing by 7% a year annually while they're withdrawing. So their balance might hold or even grow while they're drawing out of the portfolio. The second individual enters retirement in a bear market. The portfolio drops by 20% in 1 year. From $2.5 million, they're going to $2 million. They still need that $150,000 a year, but now that's 7.5% of their portfolio gone in the first year. So in this scenario, even when markets recover, they're pulling money out at the worst possible time. So the portfolio might never fully bounce back. This is also why ages 55 to 65 are sometimes called the fragile decade. Your choices in market performance could set the tone for your whole retirement. And don't forget the opportunity cost. A $2.5 million portfolio, assuming an average compounded growth of 6%, not an assumption of what we think the market could do, but just purely hypothetical, could add $900,000 in 5 years and $1.7 million in 10 years. Retiring early doesn't just mean spending down. It means missing out on potential growth and compounding for your nest egg. Here's the good news. You don't have to choose between grinding away in your high-stress career until 67 or walking away cold turkey at 55. There's a middle ground. Working even a little bit longer in a reduced role can have a big impact. So you could boost your Social Security. Even $40,000 a year can replace those zeros on your record. That means a higher lifetime benefit for you and potentially your spouse and surviving spouse's benefit. You also get to preserve your portfolio. If you earn $50,000 part-time, that's $50,000 less that you need to withdraw out of your portfolio. Instead of pulling $150,000, which might be 6% of your portfolio value, maybe you're only pulling $100,000, which is 4%. And then there's healthcare savings. Employer health coverage could save you $15,000 to $20,000 per year versus private insurance. Over 5 years, that's an additional $75,000 to $100,000 saved. And then there's just the psychological win. Retirement doesn't have to be a light switch. Think of it as a dimmer switch. A few days a week of consulting, teaching, or project work gives you income, purpose, and flexibility. I had a client who left a $250,000 corporate role at age 58. He consulted at $60,000 a year until 63. That modest income covered a third of his expenses, reduced portfolio withdrawals, and gave him 5 more years in his Social Security record. By the time he fully retired, he had $500,000 more in his portfolio and $400 more per month in his Social Security benefit. So what's the key takeaway? Retiring at 55 doesn't just mean freedom from work. It can also mean zeros on your Social Security record if you haven't worked a full 35 years, lower lifetime benefits for you and your spouse from Social Security, a fragile decade of heavy withdrawals, greater exposure to potential market downturns. You also get that loss compounding effect on your portfolio and the potential for higher healthcare costs. But here's the thing. If retiring early is something that's important to you, nothing is insurmountable with the proper type of financial planning. By understanding what your goals are early in life, you can take the appropriate steps to structure your portfolio, your lifestyle, and your savings today in order to reach that goal in the future. If you've enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button so you can be notified of more videos in the future. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you on the next one.